A fitting wake-up call after an unbelievable night of football. I mean, football is here and it is everywhere. It's
The Buffalo Bills were off to the
very
races
good
last night.
-10, not enough.
This
They are
weekend
very-
against the Dolphins will be an interesting matchup.
They are a very good football team.
Great start to the day on the Sports Talk Tuesday.
Yeah, we're going to let Jake do his thing. The notes for the show are really fantastic. Just quickly, Mark, how was your Monday?
It was fantastic. What do you mean? It was busy as all hell, but it was awesome. We got off to a great start, got the week kicked into gear, had some coaching calls, had some new people that I got to meet, had some internal meetings with some people about, my 30 minutes with Howie yesterday was phenomenal.
Wow.
A little bit of reframing what success looks like and what it is, and talking about dude, look, you've really been doing this for this amount of time, and look at how the exponential growth is happening. So just really great stuff.
See, here's the difference in leadership. I was going to call him break his balls today. Say, what the fuck did you do?
He added one to the pipeline last night. I don't know what to tell you. Created the introduction. We're off to the races. So
and he introduced you. He introduced you.
Yeah, of course he did. What do you mean? Who's running this show?
That's so great. That is so awesome. Before we let the show get away from us, we always
Howie, see me in my office.
Yeah.
We always do shout outs and birthdays. Henry Paisano, who comes late, he's not here yet, but let's wish him a big, big happy birthday. He's not here, so we don't need to do the music. And another shout out to Nicholas Mao. He's everywhere. Nick Mao is everywhere, man. I was looking at potentially going to this luncheon on Thursday, which is all about what's happening with office space. Companies are dwindling their space and whatever. And boom, 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 boom. I see he's there. It's crazy. He's on the board. He's like incoming president. I'm like, Nick is
I will say he is everywhere, but if he continues with the Bills talk, he will be nowhere on my social media. He will be removed for the following week.
Look, Nick, we'll tolerate the Florida State stuff because you got somebody on
you're
your side
pushing
there.
Here. You're pushing
start
here.
getting to the Buffalo Bills talk. We end this real quickly. In
Especially
case Della Penne,
Especially
Eagles
this week.
victory. Eagles looked good as
I'm
well.
all good for the Eagles. All good for the Eagles.
Yeah, for sure.
Fly, Eagles, fly.
All right, let's get this thing started. Let's wake it up. Jake's got a full show. Let's roll.
Well, man.
Wake up, everybody. Get up, get up, get up, get up. Wake up, come on, come on. Wake up, everybody. Teach a new way. Maybe then they'll listen what you have to say. Wake up, everybody. No more sleeping in bed.
As is fitting, we're gonna every Monday, Jake's gonna do his wrap up. Yesterday was amazing having Lori on. People have bought tickets. Remember, there's only 50, so make sure to get to that spot and buy your tickets. Thank you for putting that up, Shay. It's gonna be a really cool event. Everybody's really psyched about it. But before Jake's segment, he deserves his own walk-up music too. So let's do it, baby.
Let's
Really,
go.
I did think it was going to be the Jake song, and so I'm really happy it's not. And if you know anybody named Jake, it is the worst song ever. It just says Jake. Oh, actually, this guy, just for shits and giggles, is a guy on YouTube who, no matter what your name is, he will sing it for like 3 minutes
I'll
straight.
sing a song for like 3 minutes
And
about just your
if
name.
you think having a song stuck in your head is annoying, imagine having your own name stuck in your head is even quite annoying, more annoying. But cool, we're back on a Tuesday. Thank you for having me back. And just like Sports Center, I will not be talking about baseball at all. I don't know anything about it, and I'll leave that to Shay to do. But first, I want to talk about, obviously,
save it. The baseball will be October. We're almost there.
There we go. And we'll give Shay his own topic. But I want to start, obviously, like a great football weekend it was. College was amazing. Congratulations to the Noles. Congratulations to the Gators for winning the state. Miami, we might talk about a little bit. But I want to start where I think we could pull a lot of perspective and lessons from someone who is a pioneer, someone who is very accomplished, someone who has the skills to be great, and that is Becky Hammon. Becky Hammon, if you don't know, is the head coach of the Las Vegas Aces, the WNBA champions this year. And that is a resume of Becky Hammon right now. You can see she became the WNBA coach and won a title in her first season. But what you might not know, and you see there, she has been with Greg Popovich for years on years. And there's two things, and I'm going to let the two videos play. But she decided to leave the Spurs. She had a lot of opportunities in the NBA to be a front office or a head coach. And I want to let Greg Popovich talk about it first. And then I want to let her talk about why she left and the reasons that she left, and then we'll get into it.
I still get to have her, which is great because she's a very valuable part of the program. So I've come to depend on her a great deal. But for her, it's a great opportunity to have a head coaching job at that level, to prove herself. She's already proven herself to me, but that doesn't matter in the long run. She's interviewed for a few jobs in the NBA, and she would have been more than qualified and done a great job in several of those situations, but it didn't work out. And that happens to everybody who's out there interviewing. You don't get what you want right off the bat, but she's certainly capable, and I think she'll prove that in Vegas. They've got a hell of a coach coming their way, so I just wish her the best when the time comes, but it's not yet.
What are some of the talents?
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
I think the thing that jumps out at me is you don't get what you want right away. It's just this mentality of, here's my credit card, give it to me now, whether I can afford it or not. And I think in the work world, affording it means putting in the work, man, getting the experience, doing the shit, paying your dues. I mean, last night I watched Legacy and they talked about Kobe and Shaq lost for like 3 years in a row. Nobody remembers that. That's grueling stuff. But, so the patience factor of what she went through is so fantastic.
Yeah, but so I think that's part of the conversation too, is that her goal was to be an NBA head coach. We'll talk, we're going to play the other video, but like, how long do you allow or do you look for somebody else's validation and say, you know what, maybe that's not going to be the route for me right now? Because the reality is that nobody was going to hire her as an NBA head coach. Yep. If you look at the system and you look at, and so what Popovich was saying is she was more than qualified for those positions. I know she would have done a good job. She didn't get that, and that happens to a lot of people. So I'm not trying to knock the system per se, but at some point you got to, as an individual, say, I'm not going to allow you to define my story. I'm going to do it for myself. And I think that takes us to the next part.
And there's two, and before we get into it, I'll preface it, but there's two different sides to the story I see. It's the intangibles versus the experience conversation. But then there's also the personal side that you talked on. I need the gratifications for myself to prove to myself that
I want to do the job.
Right. This is what I have prepared for. I believe that I'm ready. If there's no avenue to go get there, you have to take a different path. Like if the path you've decided to take has roadblocks and some that will never get you to the end of the road, you better find the way through the forest to get there. And so I'll let Becky Hammon kind of talk about what she was hearing while she was in the interviews.
Cannot emphasize the importance of this opportunity that I have, and that I think this is more advantageous for growth. And there's something to being a head coach. I sat in a lot of head coaching interviews, and I don't think there's two things that people always said. You've only been in San Antonio and you've never been a head coach. Well, I can tell you right now, Mark Davis met me, Nikki met me, and said that's a head coach right now. That's a head coach right now. We're going after her.
Yeah. So, I know that feeling. I know what it's like to want to do the job and to feel like you're prepared for it and to feel like you've done everything necessary, that you don't necessarily have the experience and you may have only been in one place, but I know I can do it. And I'm just looking for somebody who recognizes that in me. This to me is the conversation of entrepreneurship and the ability to build your own business, and how organizations can try to leverage that for people and keep great talent within an organization that have those capabilities.
So first of all, Jake, unbelievable content play here. Unbelievable. 2 fantastic videos to kind of stir this
Well,
conversation.
you do give me a week to prepare, so if I showed up unprepared, it'd be.
But this reminds me of working in corporate America, when people say, well, when I become VP, I'll do that, and I'm like, what are you waiting for? Yeah. Do it now, just because of the title or the pay. The idea that you can do it. Look yourself in the mirror and I can do that. I've always been, and that's that entrepreneurial mindset. Even if you live inside of a company, you can still be or have an entrepreneurial mindset within a company if you decide to bet on yourself. Becky bet on herself. She didn't need outside validation that says, oh, here you go. I've decided that you can, be this role. And I had this conversation Sunday at brunch with somebody very close to us who's in line for a very big promotion. They basically wrote the job description for her, but there's a possibility that she may not get the job. And she was like freaked out, like, what do I do? And I said, that's your reason to leave.
Yeah. So I think that's a really good point, because if we as leaders within an organization recognize somebody who is high potential, has all of the intangibles, and like Greg Popovich could have done everything to try to hold on to her. He could have tried to kept her in a space to where nobody knew about her. And he said, he goes, I've become very reliant on her. That's a scary position for a leader, because as you think about that person going to do their own thing, essentially you can't give her your job. Like, unless you want to retire and you're ready, you can't give her your job. So the only move for her is to allow her to leave, which is an unbelievable leadership lesson in emotional intelligence and the willingness to delegate and allow people to have as much responsibility as they could possibly have, and let them walk away because there's no more room for growth for them. There are very few people in the world that are willing to do that.
And you talk about one of the most important aspects of a leader is offering the opportunity, presenting the opportunities, creating the opportunities for the people under them to not only excel and hopefully excel past them and take over the job. And that's what Popovich did. And you talked about it, giving her the summer league where she went and won a championship, making her the first interim, women NBA basketball coach. And she talks about it, or he talks about it.
You know how much risk there is involved with that?
You can't not talk on it. We're 3 men on a panel, so I'd love to have a women's opinion. But as men, you have to own that there is a gender gap. There is a gap that exists between genders, and how you have to. And so as him, like Popovich consistently talked about it. Like he goes, we didn't hire Becky because she was a woman. We didn't hire her because of all these things. He goes, it made my job harder to hire a woman. Believe me, like it did. But he's like, she earned everything I asked of my coaches. So it made no difference she was a woman. He goes, but in today's society, it's a big deal.
So everybody's talking about it. Rick Whalen's talking about it. Scott Ogilvy is talking about it. Like, it's a leader's job to raise up their leaders. That's really fun language. What that really means, though, is that you got to give. You got to give opportunity, not to succeed, to fail. And that to me is what Greg Popovich did by making her the head of the summer league. If she fails, he looks like a dork in front of everybody. Everybody points to him and goes, what the hell is Greg Popovich doing putting a woman in front of the summer league? You got to be willing to accept that responsibility, allow them to fail, and work through their failures. Now, it works out great when they're successful and it's a no-brainer and everybody's like, oh my God, it's the greatest.
You're a genius, right?
But you can't go, oh, well, only if that's the case. You got to be willing to accept that responsibility and risk to raise those people up and give those opportunities.
I know a lot of the leadership work you guys are doing. One of the big things is being willing to listen to what your people want. What's
Right.
their roadmap? What's in it for them, not what's in it for you. And that's the culture I grew up in. It's my company. I'm leading it. I'm doing it. And you work for me. Well, Popovich never did that. I saw an interview with Shaq this morning, and they were like saying, what's the most important ingredient to winning a championship? And he said the communication between ownership, coaches, and player and superstars. He goes, if I had an open door to talk to them about what I wanted, I'm on the court. I'm telling you, he said, I'm getting double teamed. I need Robert Horry in the corner.
Right.
If he can't have that conversation, which I think does not happen in a lot of organizations.
No.
Becky Hammond was able to have these conversations with Popovich, and he knew full well putting her in position there was a stop to getting her to what she wanted. He knew in the beginning. And so every move, everything he did was in line with doing that, which at the end is a pain in the ass for leaders because people leave you. It's very much like kids.
Right.
They leave you.
Right. No, it's 1,000% correct. Is you're offering them the opportunity to do something, becoming reliant on them because they're very good at the thing they do. And you continue to push more responsibility to them just for that to become vacant. But that to me is what's your leadership management development system? How are you developing leaders across levels? To me, we had to be great at that in developing an organization. This is what Alabama has done a great job of, is they're not worried about when the seniors leave because the seniors are training the juniors and the juniors are training the sophomores and the sophomores are training the freshmen. And so every year it's just new people being brought in. And instead of waiting 4 years to figure out whether or not they're going to be the right fit, they find out in year one. And if they're not a right fit in year one, they get shown the door very quickly in lots of different ways. Some make the decision themselves, and others get either medicaled or get told to transfer, or all of the other ways that it can happen. But you get that, you find out right now, because 95% of the organization is in alignment with what standards are and what's expected of everybody. And so you have the organization managing itself, and it's not one person responsible for all of it.
So Jake, your intention here, I think, was to showcase a female that went through all this stuff. Am I correct?
Well, yeah, I want to highlight that leadership isn't a person, it's characteristics. It isn't a gender. It has nothing to do with men dealing with men. It is a skill set. And he talks about it. And Popovich goes deep. There are three people, are Phil Jackson, Popovich, and there's another, or Pau Gasol, and then there's another coach who are, all their quotes are in this article. And they talk about the most impressive ability she had was her ability to relate to people. The ability to have conversations, sit next to people who she had nothing in common with other than the game of basketball, and develop relationships so much further than the game of basketball. And if you watch her post-game speech on the court with her players, she goes, how did you do it so fast? She goes, because we built trust. I know what makes them tick. They know what makes me tick. And she talks about it. She goes, we built a bond so quickly. And so that's what I wanted to highlight, that it doesn't matter who you are, the background you come from.
I'll never forget stepping in front of Cincinnati for the first time and being, and in my mind, of everything I've known of football coaches up to this point, there was nobody my age that had done it that was a roadmap for me to follow. There was no coordinators that were 26 that I had worked behind. Every coordinator I had worked for was 40, 50 years old that had this laundry list of experience that they were using as their qualifier in front of the team. I was like, what the hell am I going to do? I don't have that laundry list. How am I going to get these guys to follow me? And I quickly learned that they weren't going to follow me because of the shit that I had done previously. They were going to follow me because of me. They were going to follow me because they believed in me. So how could I get them to believe in me? And it became about knowing them. It became about understanding who they were and what was important to them, and how to get them to buy into what I was selling. And once I did that, it was a no-brainer. I had guys who were starters on defense going, how come I'm not on more special teams? and I'd be like, go talk to the head coach. He told me to take you off. You got problems with the depth chart? Go handle it with that man, because I would love to have you on there. So that creating that culture and that buy-in became not about me, but became about them.
Yeah, but I think the real takeaway here is, and this was a big paradigm shift for me in coaching, was my success is in my client's success.
Correct.
When you and I decided to partner and I was sort of, done, what I was not prepared for was you actually being better than me. That was like a real fucking bell ringer, like, whoa, and all. So it's a paradigm shift for people who are overachievers to say my success is in what happens to the group. I think Nick Saban was a great example. He stopped making it about him a long time ago. He puts the right people in place. Becky Hammond could be the greatest communicator on the freaking planet. She had the right people on that team that she got to communicate with. She built trust with. She got them to be high performers. So all the coaching in the world doesn't mean shit if the player doesn't do anything.
So I thought that like there's a takeaway from legacy that we always talk about how great Kobe is, and Kobe is great, but maybe Kobe wasn't so great in the ability to communicate and build relationships. Because if you talk to guys that were on that team, and the reason he couldn't make it work is because he wasn't willing to make it work. Right. Shaq was like, we could have made this thing run for 15 years if he was willing to make it work together, but he wanted to be in his room watching film when everybody else was having dinner and doing things. And this is, to me, like in leadership, sometimes you got to get out of your comfort zone a little bit. You got to get out of what you want to do to be there for the team and be around the team in order for them to have that trust in you.
Here's a question for both of you guys. Is Becky Hammond qualified to be an NBA head coach?
Yes, 1,000%.
Yeah. Should be the number one candidate.
She's qualified. By the way, the money she makes as a WNBA head coach versus what the men make is stupid different. I mean,
so Mark Davis paid her.
He's that qualified, right? Do you ever see it happening?
So this is where, for me, it becomes a decision for her. Is the dream still, like, she's done the job. She's been a head coach. She's won a championship, but she did it at the WNBA level. So that's professional basketball still. She's still dealing with professional athletes in professional ranks. Does it still in her mind say, no, I got to do it at the peak of peaks, which I know is the NBA. So I don't care what the opportunity is. I'm going to go do that. Or does she say, no, screw them. It's not about their validation or anybody else's validation. I love where I am. I love the sport that I'm working with and the people that I'm working with. And I'd rather stay here and love what I do rather than scratch that itch and validate what everybody else.
I think Gina Auriemma is a credit to that. I think Coach Krzyzewski's Coach Cal, Coach Saban, like all the people who are very dominant at not the top of the sport, and we look at them as legendary coaches, and they build systems and processes where they are, and that's really impressive. And it'll be interesting if that translates with Becky Hammond.
I think it's all about her. I think it's all about her decision of what's important.
I'm struggling with the fact that Jackie Robinson didn't say my dream is to play in the major leagues. He could have played in the black leagues and that would have been it. He was good enough. He should have played, and he got that opportunity because he's stuck on that. So I think this is a real shift. And one of the things I hope that they talk about at Women's Power Summit is there are some walls that you're just not climbing. I mean, most of the law firms we deal with, it's the old white man's club, man. It's just crazy.
So and this goes back to defining success for yourself, right? Like that to me is, do you want to take the corporate, it's the golden handcuffs. Do you want to take the corporate job that has a super high salary, but is a toxic work environment, and you're not going to like the people you work with, but it's that status of I was the CEO of Starbucks or whatever company it was? Or do you want to build your own thing that may be smaller, may not get as much national recognition? What validation are you looking for?
She needs to go for it, man.
She does have the weight of the world on her back, and she acknowledges that she does know that. And not only is it her path, but it is every other women's path.
Way to go, Jake,
Right?
man. What a great topic, man. Thank
Great
you.
conversation. Great topic. Well done, Jake. Great Tuesday.
I
Look forward
appreciate
to
it.
seeing you next Monday. We'll be talking all kinds of football, all kinds of leadership, all kinds of stuff you can take away from the field. It's time to get down to business. See you right here, same bat channel, same bat time.
Please don't worry about me. I'm about to let my heart speak. My friends keep telling me to leave this. So let's get down to business. Let's get down to business. Give you one more night to get this.